Good afternoon, everyone. TractorMan44 here. You know, they say, I don't know who they are, but they are always saying stuff. But they say we humans are creatures of habit. Today is no exception. I proved that true to farm, I'm a creature of habit too. I am habitually never prepared for winter because I'm always busy doing something for somebody, you know. And if I ain't doing something for somebody, I'm in the woodpile doing something there. So winter always sneaks up on me, man. We get snow and stuff like that, and I ain't never prepared. But I mean, it doesn't matter. You just do what you got to do. But I got me a new tractor, well, a new to me tractor here a couple months ago or so. You might have seen it in one of the videos or two. I don't have it ready for winter. Had about 7-8 inches of snow here a couple days ago. Heck, I've got several sets of chains, you know, I've been gonna make up for it. Never got around to it. Well, they're calling for more weather to come in this weekend, and guess what? I still ain't got around to getting some chains together and putting them on. But I'm gonna show you what my dilemma is and what I'm gonna do to resolve it. I just don't know if I'm gonna get it done for this weekend. Now, I tell you guys all the time, I'm a sucker for a bargain. I go to lots of farm auctions, not so much lately, I've been busy, but go to lots of farm auctions and estate sales, things of that nature, you know, when I happen to be driving by one. But here a while back, I got a towing company. It was going out of business, and I bought a whole pile of chains for their dual wheeled, you know, like, I don't know what chassis they had on. They probably had 2-ton chassis, 20-inch rears or something, you know. But I got a chance to see these sets of chains here look kind of funny. It looks like two chains put together. Those are duals for those tow trucks, and they're probably going to be too short for this little tractor that I'm gonna be working on. But I've tried to pair them up and match them up, you know, so that I can make sure that they're reasonably close to the same length. But that's what I'm gonna do. Now here's some singles here that were in the pile. Those back there, I think, are actually going to be long enough. If you take the circumference of your tractor tire, because I don't ever buy anything specifically for a specific tractor. If you take that circumference, and circumference equals pi times diameter, so just measure the diameter. These happen to be 34 inches. Multiply it times pi, 3.14. You come up with around 102, 103 inches, somewhere in that general area, down the center of the tire. So just kind of pick out something, and start with that's somewhere near that general area. I'm going to go about the business to figure out what to go best on the rears of this 3030 Kubota, and then I'm going to have to make up a smaller set out of these or some other sets of chains for the front. Now, I'm sure there's a forward and backwards way of installing these, but these are just kind of mud and snow chains. They're not icebreakers, you know. When they're icebreakers, you can actually tell which direction they have to go because they got that little V welded, to the outside of the link. So they've got to go to the outside. These guys here, I don't think really matters. But like again, hell, this is on an old tractor, out here in the woods at 3 miles an hour. It ain't on the interstate on a tractor and trailer, going, 50 mile an hour, in the snow or ice. Now, there's always a lot of cussing going on whenever you're putting on chains. I don't care what anybody says. These ain't never been on here before. I just got them out of the pile of chains over in the shed an hour or two ago. So I don't really know if I got to do any adjusting for length yet or not. Well, it looks like the first one's gonna do just fine. I got to square it all up, jerk it around. I won't film doing all that, but I got to get it all kind of proportionate, and kind of tie it in there. Then I'll tighten everything up. I think that length is gonna work out fine. Now all I gotta do is find the mate to that puppy. Now, to make sure those clips don't pop loose, I usually use a heavier galvanized tie wire, kind of like what they hang ceiling grid with, and then loop around that latch and then twist them pretty tight. Sometimes if you're in high gear going down the road, those things will flop loose. So I just used regular tie wire, farm or concrete tie wire. Another thing I like to do, I tore apart an old trampoline years and years ago, and I saved a whole box full of the springs that went around the perimeter of the trampoline. And that's what I use is a number of them are around the perimeter of the chains to hold them tight. Yeah, you throw one every now and then, but it usually turns up. You'll find it with the lawnmower, on occasion. But it's fine. You just bend the hooks back reasonably hook shaped and use them again. It's no big deal. On a side note, we're always talking about adding weights to these little tractors, and I needed to do something the other day. I did a little video on this. I don't even know if I put it up yet or not. I've got to check. Well, by now I might have. I don't know. But at any rate, I had to install a culvert for a lady, a 16-inch by 20-foot culvert. I needed to move about 22 tons of rock, I think it was. And I didn't want to put a bush hog on the back of this thing, you know, or a blade or a rototiller or anything like that to give me a little bit of counterweight, simply because part of the driveway I was going to have to work in was kind of tight, and I didn't want to have to keep looking back behind me. So I hurried up quick, grabbed some scrap box tubing. I think that's 2-inch light gauge box tubing. And I'll take those wheel weights off there and show you what I did one of these days. But I just stuck them on there. It took about 25 minutes in all to put that little rig on there to where I could add those tractor wheel weights to it and give myself close to 400 pounds of ballast. I don't know, I haven't added it up, but I think it's somewhere around 350 to 400 pounds of ballast. Really makes a big difference when you're now pushing snow, of course. But if you run around with your loader loaded and all that, you know, like moving that rock for that lady, or just moving dirt in your yard. I mean, it makes a big difference. That's just a side note. This video is about these doggone tire chains. One's done, and I'm tickled to death with it. I'm going to go ahead and put the other one on now. I don't know even what time it is outside. Oh, heck, it might even be dark. I don't know. Well, I guess the point of the video is to let y'all know with these nice, neat little tractors, you can kind of mix the old with the new, so to speak, because them old tire chains I'm putting together there, I bet you them tire chains is 60 years old. You don't have to buy all new stuff. Just kind of keep your eyes peeled. Come across a farm auction. You can buy some very usable stuff that's very easily adaptable, you know, for use on these new rigs. In my estimation, if I got the wherewithal to come up with these old ones cheap, it'd be silly on my behalf to go out and spend money on some new ones. Now, if I'm in a bind and need something like that, heck yeah, man, I'll spend the money in a heartbeat. You know, I don't know if I pointed out in that tire chain on the other side, but whenever I'm working by myself, which is pretty much all the time, especially doing this kind of stuff, man, it's hard chasing those chains around by yourself. So what I do, I take those rubber bungee cords and hook them onto it, and then just kind of let them kind of assist me in pulling those things around the tire. I went ahead and hooked them on before I started the video. Okay, now I've got to decide where to cut this off. There's something too long. You might not be able to see this very well, but what we're going to do is relocate a cross link, just one tooth or one link. It's just in the way of making the latch, so I'm just going to relocate it one link. Moving that by one link is going to allow me to hook the chains together with no other variation. Okay, now number two, the right side was just a little bit different than the one over there. It's got two different types of clips on it. I do have one cross link too long, so I'm going to have to take that off and eliminate that one cross link and make it where it'll hook on a little more conveniently. All in all, it's just quick and simple. Really didn't take that much. I don't think that was like 4 minutes of video, and part of that problem, about a minute and a half of it, was one of the cross links was bound up in there, and it took me a little while to fiddle that around and get that broke loose. That tire really didn't take 3.5 minutes to put chain on. So once I get this one tied on and taken care of, tomorrow I'm going to go back to business of making me some chains for the front end out of some old truck chains of a different gauge, a lighter gauge, like 16s for a standard pickup truck. I've made those many times, you know, in the past for the front wheels on four-wheel drives. So, if we get lucky, won't have very much to do with them those either. And then I'll be ready for the snow. We're gonna pick up where we left off yesterday, putting chains on that old Kubota. Got the rear ones on last night, you know, had just a slight modification, you know, not a big deal. So today I scrounged around in the back of the shed and brought a few sets of chains up. That may or may not work on those front tires. Haven't even brought the tractor in the shed yet, but I'm getting ready to do that here in a minute. But at any rate, still got several more. If none of these guys work out here, got several more to pull out and make a comparison. But we'll get something on her. Now, I know right off the bat, these two sets right here, they look like they're for probably 14-inch car tires or something like that. The reason I brought them up is I sent that 2400, that B2400 down to my son's, and we need to get the front tire chains on that too. So one of those sets will adapt onto those smaller front tires in that 2400. This set over here, however, this is that's for a pair of 16s. They look like 800 16s. And then I remember this past summer, my wife and I we were actually in Michigan up at the Henry Ford Museum. Driving by, we come by an estate sale, and it was right in the middle of closing up. They literally said that in 5 minutes they were locking the doors, estate sales over. Well, sitting in the corner of the garage, hanging on a nail actually, was this brand spanking new set of chains. I asked them what they wanted for the chains. They said $20. I said, well, are you having the estate sale again tomorrow? Nope, this is it. End of story. Today it's gone. I said, well, I tell you, I said, I really don't want to spend $20. Would you take $5 for them? And the guy just shrugged his shoulders and says, heck yeah, man. So I popped a $5 bill out of my pocket and then took this set of brand spanking new chains. They ain't never been on the ground. Okay, now I selected one set and it was too short. Obviously, I knew that was going to be for the 2400 anyway. So I took a second set that was a little bit longer, and they're going to work out fine. I had to take one cross link off of it. But the reason I selected these here primarily is because they are, even though they're old and worn fairly well, if you notice those little V notches on there, what do you want to call them? Those are icebreakers or ice links or whatever you call it. Those are better than just snow chains. Snow chains just have the bare link, which looks just like this all the way around. But the icebreakers or the ice links are going to have this. So I opted to put those on there because I do just as much work in the mud in the summertime, spring, summertime, and fall as I do in the snow and wintertime, actually more so. I don't know if y'all noticed, I got the loader lifted up in the air. Yesterday I had the back end supported on the hydraulic jacks quite safely. Today I've got blocks underneath the front end not to trust the hydraulics. If the correct hose blows on your loader, it could pop and then and it just come down on you. I think to make that just a little bit better, I'm going to go ahead and relocate the second cross link right next to where the clip attaches it. It's kind of interfering, and you see I got a little bit of play in it. I don't like that much play. So I'm going to relocate that back a couple of links and then tighten them up. And what I had to do to this one here actually was I had to remove one link and then relocate two others because they were in the way of actually making the connection. So you can notice how close these are together. I actually moved that one out and moved this one this way in order for the links to work. Hey, I'll give you a tip. When you're putting these things on, if you got the wherewithal to spin your tires, once you get it on and it feels all good and snug, you give it a couple of good turns. And what you're going to find out is once you give a couple of good turns, you're going to find some looseness in there, and you can draw it up and pick up another link most of the time. I always take up the inside link first because that's the hardest one to make up without laying down on the floor and getting all cruddy. So I'll make that one up first and then actually draw it together out here much tighter. Yeah, just a quick walk around on the tractor. This is the front tire here with the icebreakers, on it. Just let's see how nice and tight everything is. It's really fairly tight. I'm not even going to put any of the springs across there. The trampoline springs. I don't think I'm going to have to. Run up and down the road, for an hour or two. And then, actually just a few minutes, then you check for tightness. Sometimes you can draw up a link or sometimes put something across to tighten them up. But I think we're good to go. But at any rate, the front tires, the chains are actually really pretty good. They're a little smaller but these are very small dimension tires. You don't really need those great big monstrous links, just something to break through and get you that little bit of traction. So, and they make a world of difference in the mud too, especially with these, I guess these are R5 industrial tread. You got a lot more meat, with that industrial tread, but also what you have with that lot more meat, a lot greater chance of spinning out a little quicker in the mud and the snow. The agricultural tread has a tendency to, in my opinion, to grip just a little bit better and clean itself fairly well in the mud, whereas these R5 industrial tread do not. I definitely prefer the R5 industrial simply because in the rocky terrain like I've got around my place, I've got more meat to the tire, so I got less of a chance of puncturing the tire than I do with agricultural tread, with running a stub up in it, or a sharp rock or whatever. And the more weight you have on the tractor, whether it's fluid-filled tires or counterweights on the back or a nice big, huge counterweight, you're increasing the puncturability of those tires, because when you stop and think, you get a point as big as your thumb, or maybe a pointed one, as big as your bent finger or something like that, and you've got a tremendous amount of weight pointing on being exerted down on that particular point, it doesn't take much to puncture the tire. So that's one of the reasons why I really prefer the industrial tread. So here we go to tail end of this this little segment on putting a set of chains on the old Kubota. I think the point of the video is to let y'all know that you just keep your eyes open. If you get around farm auctions or estate sales or things like that, when you least expect it, you find something that's going to be beneficial to you, especially if you're trying to get by, not necessarily on the cheap. I mean, I don't like to spend money unless I have to, but if I can find something I can put to use in the future, I typically just jump on it simply because, what's $5 going to do in my pocket compared to a set of chains whenever I need them? You know what I'm saying? So to make a long story short, it doesn't have to be new stuff to make these fairly new tractors function just a little bit better. At any rate, hopefully I didn't drag on too awful much, and hopefully you kind of seen some of the shortcuts or tips, I guess, on installing a set of chains. Not that I'm a professional, that I have installed them, dozens and dozens of times, But at any rate, yeah, this one here is put to rest. Just one more thing. Do y'all remember that show, oh my gosh, back in the 80s, I guess? Oh, Peter Falk. He played a guy called Columbo. He was that crime detective. He always, was all kind of crunchy looking and everything. His coat was all disheveled. Well, I kind of feel like Columbo because I got just one more thing. I don't even know why I'm throwing this in on here because I really need to do a special thank you video. But there's an old boy called GP Outdoors. He subscribed to me, and for some reason he's took a liking to the silly videos that I put out. He gave me a glowing recommendation and shout out the other day. And as a direct result of his praising my channel in just an amazing fashion, totally undeserved fashion, but awesome, I may add, my subscribers just shot up immensely. I got within 48 hours, 200 additional subscribers, and it's absolutely remarkable. But at any rate, I just wanted to thank him, and this is as good a place as any. So at any rate, that's my Columbo bit. I really appreciate it, GP. I seriously do. You never know how much I appreciate it, and I thank you very much. But this is Trackman 44, and I am out of here.